This story highlights the importance of setting boundaries and managing especially tricky family dynamics at events. And like you said, Megan, it can be applied across all the other relationships. It doesn't always have to be family, even though, let's be honest, family can get tricky and also can get very messy, right? So it comes from one certified wedding planner, also a wedding designer and business owner with about 30 years of experience. So they didn't just start doing weddings and events. So let's set the scene. The bio parents of the bride were divorced and did not get along at all. Both remarried, and none of them could handle their alcohol. This is starting to get good. The wedding was at a luxury hotel on Oahu in Hawaii. And
Ooh,
the
I'd like
father
to
of
see the
the
budget for this wedding.
it sounds like it was a destination wedding, right?
Clearly.
The father of the bride gave a speech that started to turn quite offensive, and I'm going to quote what was sent to us. It started saying, "I saw you come out of your mother's vagina." This is probably, if you're a sound engineer, you have to have the mute button like ready.
Absolutely.
Which, this is not the end of it, which turned into a huge fight, which moved then into the stairwell. So it's like from, I guess, the reception, this turned into into another fight into the stairwell. They called security, who, basically they said that misbehaved and they threw them out. The planner had to calm the bride. I can only imagine being the bride and getting like embarrassed, by your father. I mean, how
Yeah.
hard that is. And she
Mortifying.
had, yeah, mortifying. And then she had to handle the reception at the same time, and the wedding continued. And then she shared some of her learnings, because with some of our stories we want to, also know what was learned in the process. And this wedding planner, she said, "I tell the wedding party at the rehearsal, that the day is about making the couple happy. That is the mission. If anyone does the opposite, they will be removed from the wedding. Egos are not allowed. Personal problems are not welcome, because it's not about them." Okay, so Megan, let's break it down. First,
Ooh,
what is your initial reaction to the story?
my heart is breaking for the bride that her dad would say things like that at her wedding reception. Mortifying. Clearly, this was a very fancy 5-star destination program if everyone went to Hawaii. So, I mean, man, my heart breaks. A couple of things that jumped out at me. One, security had to be called. Two, the planner was dealing with this security issue and this very upset bride and very upset parents and keeping the wheels on the event running all at the same time. So one person cannot be in 5 places at
That's
once.
that's exactly what I'm thinking. That's the job of about like 5 people.
Correct. Yeah, that's a lot. So the first thing was like, how in the world, if we take the relationship part of it out and just look at the planner's role of trying to calm down a very upset bride and father and probably mother. The groom, who knows where he is in this scenario.
Right, we don't
So,
hear anything about the groom. Like he's like,
right, where's the
"Bye."
groom? He was just out of there. And so I
It's like,
think
"I
this is
love
where,
you."
right, he's like, what did I just marry into? This family is
Exactly.
crazy, right? So at first I'm thinking, right, the planner has to be in 5 places at once. This is where relationships from a planner perspective are really, really critical because in this moment, dealing with the bride, she could delegate some of that to a bridesmaid, a maid of honor, someone
Yeah.
in the wedding party, a close confidant. Be like, get the bride out of here, get her a glass of champagne, calm her down, whatever her vice is, like remove her from the situation, give her a minute to like compose herself.
Yeah.
So that would be one delegation. The other one would be keeping the reception wheels on. So, like grabbing a banquet captain, someone from the venue side to be like, I got a situation. Give me 10 minutes to figure out what's going on. Keep it going. If there's a lull, tell the DJ, the band to just like
Yep.
play
Keep
the
dancing.
stupid shuffle or something, right? Like keep people
Right.
distracted from like what just happened. And then obviously keeping the parents away from each other. And I,
Mm.
as the planner, would then focus on security, making sure that the dad is settled, separated, and then coming up with a game plan so that everyone can enjoy the rest of the evening without any further continued drama, which that may include kicking someone else. Like maybe dad has had enough and it's just time for him to go to bed, and the new wife needs to come along and just be like, okay, we've had our time. Like we've enjoyed the wedding, time to go to bed.
What makes me wonder is if they kind of had an idea that dad is a bit of a, unpredictable canon. Why did they allow him to have a speech? Like,
It's a
why
great
would you
question.
give them the mic? You know what I mean? Like, this is where you're like, yeah, everybody can speak. Not really. We have established a list of people that can say a few words, or just remove that part from the wedding if it's too much of a drama to remove, the father of the bride from the whole speech part, right?
Yeah, I would have maybe, if we knew the parents ahead of time might be a wild card with a microphone, I maybe would have had them give their speech at the rehearsal dinner where there's less
Mm,
people around. The impact of something like that statement is less confound because
yeah.
generally people at the rehearsal are going to know him and maybe cut a little bit more slack as opposed to at the whole wedding. And then saying, only the bridal party, like maid of honor, best man, they're the only
Yep.
ones to speak. And where this kind of I think about where it relates into like the corporate association sort of business event side of it is we all have those wild card executives, right? That
Yes.
even if you say you have 3 minutes to speak, they're going to take 10, or
Yeah.
you have no idea what might come out of their mouth. Finding opportunities for them to feel involved and part of the process where they get their microphone moment, but limiting maybe the impact. Like maybe that's not a keynote opener, introduction. Maybe he's talking at a president's reception or she's speaking at, a small customer gathering as opposed to like the whole event.
Yeah, totally. I mean, setting boundaries around that for sure. One of my friends actually just got married recently. I came from, excuse me, from Mexico just a week ago at the time of this recording. And I love what she did with her wedding. She had a pre wedding mini reception, which was super fun because this was a destination wedding and we had like s'mores on the beach. And
Fun.
this is when most of those speeches were encouraged and allowed. And then the day of the wedding, there were only two people that had speeches, and that was, like you said, the maid of honor, and it was, I think it was also the groom's, what is it called,
Like best
groom's
man, the best
best of
man.
man, best man, yes. And that was it because nobody wanted to, on one, be bored with very long speeches, because let me tell you, the night before we did have those very long speeches, but at least it was, it was casual, and nobody, felt it was more like intimate and casual, and an opportunity to say things but without actually saying those things in front of like an entire crowd and then feel embarrassed, because some people, you're right, like they do not have, one, skills to communicate well, and two, boundaries of what should be said and what shouldn't be said when you're
Yep.
talking in front of people. And especially in family situations, that can get tricky. I remember when I got married, it was actually our parents weren't able to join. It was here in US and none of our parents got their visa, and we, because of whatever status, immigration, green card, citizenship, all of that we needed to go through, I only brought my husband back to meet my parents like a few years later. And when he got to meet my family, that was the first time he got to meet my family. And there was one instance. I come from a large family and we're very loud. My husband comes from a large family, but they're very quiet, completely opposite from what I was raised to be. So as you can tell, I have no problem talking and no problem interrupting, because that's just like who's the
Sure.
loudest gets hurt, like in a family dynamic like that.
Of
But like
course.
after a day or so of interacting with this loud family of mine, my husband pulls me on the side and he's like, "Hey, honey, I need us to go to a hotel." He couldn't handle. Before we move any further, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our main sponsor, Trifan Events, which is a boutique event planning and production agency that will come alongside you, offering personalized event planning and technical support, strategic event design, production and technology management, and flawless execution for live, virtual, and hybrid events. The team at Trifan Events is passionate about planning and producing event experiences that get people involved with true moments of interaction, engagement, and co-creation, while offering white glove treatment throughout the entire planning process, enabling you to reach your event goals with the use of creativity, production tools, and event technology. To find out how Trifan Events can plan and produce your event become memorable, go to trifanevents.com.
Look,
Crazy.
I've been that family member going to hotels because I was just like, oh my God, these kids are too much. Everything's too much. Because my family's the same way. We're a lot, we're in your face, we're together. And so I've been that. I totally get it. Like, I need some white space.
So I feel like knowing that family, going to what the planner did, communicating some ground rules and communicating what are the boundaries. I think that's very, very important. That, highlights the importance of clear communication. And you do that, during the rehearsal, whenever,
Yep.
have everyone together, the bridal party, the people that will be in the wedding, and you want to ensure that that happens, that everybody understands the importance of keeping the main thing be the main thing.
Correct.
Which is, in her case, as she said, it's about them, it's not about you. I don't care about your, little family drama and whatever things that you guys are dealing on the side. This is about them. It's their special day, because this is the one day that they're going to remember. And if you're going
Yep.
to ruin it, they're going to remember that more than they're going to remember all the other good things. So with that, I would love to talk a little bit about the role of alcohol at events,
Oh, I love this one.
because I feel like this is where I personally, struggle, especially when I go to a lot of the corporate events that we attend. And when I'm doing my bodybuilding prep stage, I can have any alcohol, I can touch anything. And then here I am with my glass of water, or maybe, you know what I do? Actually, it's so funny, but I've done this before. I would ask for a sparkling glass of water with the margarita salt rim to pretend like I'm actually drinking a margarita, but actually I have sparkling water with a lime in it. And it's sparkling water because I don't have other options many times. And
Right.
one of my friends, he's the host of Return on Wellness, he's the one that actually always brings this up. It's like, I don't see any non alcoholic beverages. And if you do have a problem with alcohol, if you did struggle, that has to be an option.
Yeah. And soda is not a replacement for a non-alcoholic drink because myself included, like a lot of times I just don't feel like drinking. Like I don't want to be hungover.
Yeah,
Like a glass of champagne, one glass of wine, maybe. But there are certain events or certain points where I'm just like, I'm not in the mood. I don't want to do it. I've cut back significantly on how much I drink. And like you, especially thinking about like my friends that are having babies and maybe they haven't announced it yet and so they're like awkwardly trying to like get sparkling
right.
water in wine glasses or fake margarita glasses, whatever it may be. And
It does taste actually pretty good if you put a little bit of that same salt in your sparkling water and some lime or lemon, whatever. It's
yeah, I'll do
almost
a
like a
sparkling water with a
margarita.
lime. Totally.
Yes.
It's like a non-alcoholic skinny margarita. I just don't understand where this like even started from. It's like, oh, we're having a social event, so it has to have alcohol, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't know where we got that, and I don't know where the peer pressure to have the alcohol came
Yeah.
from. Like if I say, "Oh, no, I just don't feel like drinking tonight," it doesn't have to be any more than that. I just don't feel like it. Like,
But the
I
problem
don't
is, if
have
you
to
do
travel,
say
I don't have a
that,
kid.
if you do not go at the bar, you're missing opportunities, because let's be honest, like sometimes
Yeah,
deals are getting, you know, done at the bar. Like our conversation was over, going back to, this was
100%.
not during my prep, to be honest, but like I indulged in a glass of wine, you had a glass of wine,
Yep,
and something good came out of that. Now, I'm not saying
yep,
that alcohol has to be involved, but the reality is a lot of those good conversations are happening post event, post during happy hour, whatever, the conference time agenda was. So then what options do we have if you do want to be part of it and not feel excluded, yet still, not indulge in something that, one, you could have, a bad relationship with alcohol, so you're trying to avoid it, or two, you could be on a health path that doesn't include alcohol, or three, whatever religious reasons you could be, having why alcohol is just, or health reasons, is
yeah.
not or shouldn't be part of your diet.
Well, I think so many events extend to the hotel bar because we're not getting enough connection, or we want to continue the connection that we're getting at the event. So my advice to planners would be like, have a conversation with those hotels and say, look, we know people are going to come to your bar. We have the history, we have the data of what they're going to drink. We're actively trying to create an inclusive environment for people maybe who aren't. So can we set up or move like a lounge area where people don't have to congregate at the
Mm-hmm.
bars so they can be involved, but maybe they're sitting in a chair or a lounge area. Make sure that there's mocktails available at the hotel bar's menu, not just at your banquet room. Because I just also whole note to the industry, like stop peer pressuring people to drink alcohol. Like we can all have fun without it. Like
Yep.
and if we're talking about inclusion in events, that extends to the alcohol piece of this. So if someone doesn't feel like drinking, just be like, great, can I get you a glass of water? Can I get you a mocktail? Like, I think we as an industry too, and as humans, just have to stop this relationship with alcohol. And
Yeah.
meaning we have to have a good time, or there has to be alcohol at a reception. I just don't think
I
that's the case.
I agree. I think I was probably, I don't know, 27 when I had my first drop of alcohol. And let me tell you, I did have fun before I was 27.
Of course.
Alcohol was not part of the equation, and even to this day, I'm a, very light drinker. I know that 2 drinks is my max and I'm good. I don't remember ever being drunk, just because, in the back of my mind, that equals, loss of control. That's not something
Mhm,
that I easily can rel- relinquish, right? So to me, it's like, no, it's, but there's people that have a different sensitivity,
mhm.
and they genetically, you could have a high sensitivity to alcohol, and you could be drawn to that. So by providing that opportunity for someone that's already sensitive to that, it's almost like you're not being responsible with their health, with your own event, because you don't know where that could take them, right? So
Absolutely.
anyway, this could be definitely a very long topic, and even going back to those mocktails, some of them could be better than others.
I
um,
mean, for sure.
it was funny because in Mexico, their definition of a skinny margarita was literally a watered down margarita. But there's nothing. There wasn't anything skinny about it, aside from that they were adding like extra ice in the mix.
Okay, yeah, that not a skinny margarita, nor really a mocktail if you're just watering down a
No,
margarita.
like, or less carbs, less sugar, none of that. Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, going back to our story, what do you think the planner did well, and what could have been done differently to maybe avoid the situation altogether, or maybe avoid the situation escalating to the point of what it seemed to have become a physical altercation?
Yeah, I think just knowing that the parents don't get along, not giving them an opportunity to speak at all, and maybe just limiting, like, at some point, and we get this in events, you're not gonna make everybody happy. At the end of the day, it's the bride's day, and if I knew my parents were crazy like that and didn't get along, I would just be like, "You're not allowed to speak." Like, you have to draw a line in the sand somewhere. I think also the planner maybe could have been a little faster on the mute button. Now, I don't know what the AV setup was or what the situation
Yeah.
is, but as soon as that comment was made, that mic would have been cut and just been like, "Thank you so much, Dad. We're moving on," right? And
Yeah.
having an MC
Unless
that can,
probably when that happened, he started like throwing punches around and you're like,
who knows?
oh,
Right? But, like, the fact that they had security there is a huge plus, like, knowing, like, "Oh, man, this is beyond my control,
yeah.
like, we gotta get, the bigger guns in here." So, like, calling hotel security to be there. I also think the planner prepping everyone the night before. Now, that was the bridal party. Did that include the parents or not? I don't know. Maybe that conversation should have extended to the
I think that
parents
was
as
her
well.
learnings. That was her learnings to take away from there. Because I don't think it happened in the first place. So then next time she's like, okay, this is what we gotta do from here on. One thing I want to add here, I think it's also the responsibility of the bride. If you know that you have a bit of a crazy parent, you need to let your planner know, like, hey,
Yeah,
by the way, just watch for that because he might throw a few punches if he gets too much alcohol. Like,
yeah.
just be aware of it, right? I think that that would have been probably a good help to for the planner maybe to gauge, hey, should we even have this person be on the mic, or should we even have them, like, have the bartender watch, have a watch on him. It's like, how many drinks did he have? Like, he's allowed to have 2 drinks or whatever. I don't know how
I was
you
gonna say
handle
have
that,
a
honestly.
babysitter. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, have someone be exactly that sitter, technically.
Like, and maybe the stepmom could have been that, like it said both parents were remarried, so, like, maybe the
Yeah,
stepmom could have helped, or maybe there was a bridesmaid or a groomsman who were kind of like, "Hey, dad's getting a little crazy, like, maybe
yeah,
we should slow it down."
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a wrap to our first story.
Hey, friends of the Events Demystified podcast. We invite you to our brand new series, Event About It, a podcast series where we unpack the toughest event challenges as shared by our event community and discuss solutions and what we do differently. Do you have any glorious, successful stories or some event nightmares you'd like to vent about? Share them with us. Anonymously or not, we won't share more than you're comfortable with sharing. This season is also special because for the first time, we're going to have a co-host with us. Megan Martin will join us, and we're super excited about it. Subscribe on Spotify and YouTube to stay tuned to this one-of-a-kind season brought to you by Tree Fan Events, a woman-owned boutique agency leading the charge in integrating tech, AI, and data-driven strategies into event planning.